every day. I mean, my marriage doesn't look anything like my parents' marriage. My parents would argue about stuff all the time, and like Jenny and I argue, but it's different because Jenny's an introvert. And so arguing with an introvert is just reading into the silences. And deciding which of the silences you want to have words. So we're walking to pick up Una the other day, and Jenny seems quiet. And I was like, what's going on? And she goes, nothing. But I wasn't nothing. It was like one of those forks in the road where I'm like, wait, do I probe? Or do I let it lie? Does anyone know? I've been married 16 years. I have no idea. Has anybody who's been married a long time? Shout out if how many years? How many years have you been married? 35. Oh, 35 years. Anyone longer than 35 years? 40. How about you?
57.
That's a lot. Well, first of all, what's your name? Ann? And what's your husband's name? Jan. Your husband's name is Jan? And your name is Ann? Okay. And I'm just getting that correctly? Ann and Jan? Are you real people? Are you... So Ann and Jan have been married 57 years. By the way, my parents have been married 60 years. Yeah, too long, right? I mean, when I was in my 20s, I said to my mom something that I had been holding in for years. I go, Mom, if you ever wanted to divorce Dad, we would be okay with that. I thought she was going to be like, thanks. You know what I mean? But she said to me something I'll never forget. She goes, Michael, you cannot understand someone else's marriage. Do you think that's true, Ann? Jan, do you think that's true? Ann and Jan? Or is it Jan and Ann? So Ann and Jan, you are the Broccoli Rob of this audience. I think this is hilarious. You probably do not think this is hilarious. This is your life all the time. So Ann, I want to ask you advice. If you're in this situation and you say to Jan, what are you thinking about? And he says nothing. Would you probe or would you let it lie? Probe. So Ann says probe. And Jan, would you probe or would you let it lie?
Let it lie.
And that's why it works, ladies and gentlemen. That's why the story of Ann and Jan has a happy ending. Because they are the oil and vinegar that creates a successful marriage salad. So I'm with you, Ann. I am. I probe. I just think it's just better to know more than less. I said to Jenny, I go, well, what are you thinking about? And she said nothing. She sort of like doubled down on it. And then I threw an off-speed pitch. I go, well, where did you just come from just now? And she goes, I was at home and I was watching the news and I got sad about the war. And I said, do you think it's my fault? And I was raised Catholic. I'm open to the idea that anything could be my fault. I think it's possible I masturbated so much it caused a war in the Middle East. I mean, maybe I'm a dreamer, but I'm pretty sure that's what that song is about. My dad would not like that joke. No, my dad doesn't like a lot of my jokes, but he particularly doesn't like it when they're crude. And then also personal, so he wouldn't have loved. the 5-minute section on hard nipples. And he doesn't like political jokes. As a matter of fact, when I was in my 20s, I was doing a political joke, and then we ended up having this discussion from it about politics, and it was tense. You know, I was visiting him, and we went for a walk on this wooded path behind his house, and the farther we walked, the more tense it got, to the point where he was just saying mean-spirited things about me, and then I started saying mean-spirited things about him. And I got back to my car, and I said, "Bye, Dad." Not your age, like 3 years older than you are now. And of course, I have to explain drugs to my daughter, but no one explained it to me. My parents didn't explain it. The closest thing to it was in 6th grade. They had the D.A.R.E program, and it was the 80s. It was an acronym that stood for Drug Abuse Resistance Education, which sort of feels like it was written by someone on drugs. You know, like, it's got to be 4 words, but we know what the D is. We're printing the shirts on Monday. You know, it was a very shirt-driven campaign, and those shirts are worn, ironically, to this day by people actively on drugs. And before the D.A.R.E program, I had not considered using drugs, and once they laid out all the options, I was like, I should try these drugs and make an educated decision, because they made it sound pretty exciting. They were like, kids are gonna come up to you. I was like, keep talking. Like, kids hadn't come up to me. This was the most exciting social development of my childhood. Kids are gonna come up to you. They're gonna offer you crank and boomers and angel dust. I was like, angel dust? I was a 6th grade altar boy. I was like, I shall try this angel dust. Soar to the heavens aside my Lord Jesus Christ. To this day, I have not been offered crank, nor angel dust, nor even cocaine. I've never seen cocaine. I mean, sometimes people don't even believe it when I say that. I work in nightclubs. Not once has someone thought, we should show it to Mike. I was like, what do I look like? That's how people see me. I was in Washington Square Park the other day, and this stranger was walking in front of me, and someone said to that stranger, you got an undercover cop walking behind you. And then he looked back at me, and I looked behind me, and there was no one there. I said to this stranger, I go, no, which is exactly what an undercover cop would say. So I don't, I've never used recreational drugs. I mean, in college, my friends would smoke pot, but I was the least fun person to smoke with. I was the guy who was like, do you guys hate me? Why does my heart hurt? Is that rickets? Who's at the door? Who's at the door? Who's at the door? Like, it wasn't a good hang. And so I just veered away from all that. But I use prescription drugs. I don't want to, but I have to, because I have a serious sleepwalking disorder. About 20 years ago, I sleepwalked through a 2nd-story window of a La Quinta Inn in Walla Walla, Washington. True story. And when you do that once, they always bring it up when you go to the doctor. And I was diagnosed 20 years ago with this very rare condition called REM sleep behavior disorder. And I've talked about it so much in my comedy specials that when you go to med school and you study sleep disorders in the DSM, the example of REM behavior disorder is me. My dad is a doctor. He wanted me to go to med school, and I didn't. But I'm in there. I basically teach. I went to my sleep doctor a couple years ago, and I mentioned this to him. I go, you know, in the DSM, like, I'm the example of RBT. And he goes, that's not good. I go, what do you mean? We did it. He goes, well, the problem is that I'm not entirely convinced that's exactly what you have. And I said, we're going to have to write a mass email. Because there's a lot of people walking around this earth thinking they have Mike Birbiglia disease. Mike Birbiglia might not have it. Can you imagine if Lou Gehrig was like, actually, I'm feeling pretty good. I think I might play baseball again. People would have been furious. That's right, I just compared myself to Lou Gehrig. Now, the reason I bring up the sleepwalking is that 20 years ago, I get diagnosed with REM sleep behavior disorder, and they put me on Klonopin. And I recently went to a new doctor, and she's looking at my chart, and she goes, you've been on Klonopin for 20 years? And I go, yeah. She goes, all right. That is not what you want to hear when you go to the doctor. I go, are you concerned? She goes, well, do you know the side effects? I go, I don't know. She goes, depression, loss of memory, poor motor skills. I said, oh, I just thought that was my personality. Like, it's a strange moment in one's life when you realize your personality is side effects. Because then I'm just like self-conscious about all my daily activities. Like, one thing I do every